Welcome in to the Bonesville Pregame Podcast. Al Myatt, joined by Kevin Monroe. Kevin, of course, a great defensive back in his playing days at East Carolina. And in just, a week away, the 1999 team on which Kevin was a standout will be recognized before East Carolina takes on Texas San Antonio to start play in the American Athletic Conference. East Carolina coming off a 21-19 loss to Appalachian State. That one really hurt because East Carolina had a 16-0 lead, but the Pirates have had to put that in the rearview mirror and focus forward on a trip to Liberty this Saturday to take on the Flames. And Liberty coming off a 13-1 season last year. They were unbeaten going into the Fiesta Bowl, and were dominated by Oregon 45-6 in that matchup, but they did emerge with a New Year's Day Bowl from the group of five, and they've got some very talented personnel, Kevin. But let's talk about that Appalachian State game. Before we started the podcast, we were talking about how that game resembled a contest you played in 1999 against Southern Miss at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. East Carolina got out to a 15-0 lead, but to the Golden Eagles' credit, they came back and handed ECU its first loss that season. I think that put the Pirates at 5-1 at that point. But East Carolina also unbeaten going into this Appalachian State game this past Saturday in a 16-0 lead, and a defensive touchdown. Siobhan Revel returning a pick six from midfield, and then offensive coordinator John David Baker. I mean, he had a play set up. Jake Garcia hit Winston Wright Jr. 65 yards, third snap of the game, and East Carolina got that early lead. But to Appalachian State's credit, they showed a lot of poise with a veteran quarterback and came back, made an outstanding defensive play late in the game with an interception by the corner. And then Joey Aguilar and the offense came in and ran out the clock with about 5 minutes left to play.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. Certainly 1999, that's a season I think about often. Obviously, it was my senior year. And, we had a chance to, I don't know what it would have been back then because, there was no BCS playoffs. But certainly to put ourselves in position to win Conference USA and be in a big bowl game, if not just the Liberty Bowl would have been, probably would have been where we ended up. But going into that game 5-0, up to that point, I had never beaten Southern Miss in my tenure at East Carolina. We played them every year. And so, we had beaten Miami, Duke, South Carolina, West Virginia. And so to us, Southern Miss, was very beatable. We were good enough to do it. And we got off to a great start, up 15-0, I think. And I don't know if we got complacent. I don't know if we got conservative. Hard to say, but we didn't finish it out. And Derek Nix, pounded us for, 150-yard rushing or something like that. And we just couldn't slow him down. Couldn't get the ball back to David Garrard and our offense to find a way to put more points on the board. And so they had, two good receivers in Gideon and Todd Pinkston, and they had a good game plan and managed to win that game. So yeah, definitely some memories back to that. East Carolina comes out on the opening drive there and, gets that touchdown. And I think it was in 3 plays. And that's what this offense is capable of. And so it's just interesting that as we got into the second half of this game, there were no more explosion plays. And this is an offense that has 4 or 5 receivers out on every play. And I think some of it might be, pulling back a little bit so that Jake Garcia doesn't try to do too much, right? He's been 2 weeks into the season. He had 7 interceptions. And so I think they were trying to be slightly more conservative, especially with the lead. And I don't know that this is a conservative offense because they do throw the ball so much. And I think that might have hurt them because they got a little bit conservative and we're going for the short passes and ran the ball a little bit, but it just was a struggle to get first downs and get touchdowns later in the game, and that's what they really needed. So give App State credit. Joey Aguilar was fantastic. He was definitely the better quarterback on the field on Saturday. Robinson, the receiver number 2, was really, really good. He was getting open, catching passes. And for the first time, I'd say in over a year, Blake Harrell's defense didn't show up in the way that it usually does, and specifically in the secondary. They caught many third down conversions and just open passes. It was tough to watch at times because you were just so used to that defense either getting pressure up front or making good tackles or getting hands on footballs or picking off passes. And it just seemed like they were there a tad late each time. So give Aguilar and that receiving core credit. And the offensive line held up well and kept the Pirates from making plays. So just weren't able to pull it off. And then late in the game, as you mentioned, they get the interception on Garcia. He just kind of eyed down a receiver that was coming, from kind of in the slot position to the outside on a corner route, and the corner was sitting right there to come underneath it. Pick that pass off. And then when the Pirates had a chance to do the same thing, the interception went right through the hands of a defender and hit the ground. And it hit the receiver in the hands for a first down and kept the drive going. So that was just a backbreaker. It's a tough way to lose. So the Pirates definitely were good enough to win that game, got out early and just couldn't hold on.
Yes, and 47,000 on hand, so it was a good crowd, good atmosphere for East Carolina, and hopefully the Pirates can be competitive this week at Liberty and encourage folks to come out for that league opener. But the matchup with Liberty is a real challenge, and they have been a dominant team in the group of 5. They won Conference USA last year. Caden Salter, Coach Mike Houston of the Pirates, has a lot of respect for his ability, and he's averaging about 242 yards per game passing. And then Quentin Cooley, he's rushing, has some good numbers rushing. So they appear to have a balanced offense that will challenge the Pirates. Playing at home in Lynchburg, Virginia. And East Carolina, they talked about getting past the disappointment of the Appalachian State game so that game doesn't beat you twice. And they will have to take a fresh mindset and regain some confidence going into Liberty.
Yeah, this Liberty game is an interesting one. They certainly haven't played a super tough schedule to start the season. Campbell isn't very good this year. UTEP isn't very good this year. I'm not sure about New Mexico State, probably the best of the 3 opponents. But the schedule to start the season hasn't really stretched Liberty, in a way that maybe they've been stretched in the past, playing better non-conference opponents. This certainly isn't the Malik Willis Liberty team that was so good. Now he's quarterbacking in the Green Bay Packers in the NFL. But they have a ton of talent. We talked about it before the show, a ton of money in NIL to be able to attract talent to Lynchburg, Virginia. So they've got athletes, they've got some offensive, defensive linemen. They're averaging, almost 475 yards of offense per game, like 227 on the ground and 246 through the air. They're scoring 33 points a game, only giving up 19 points a game. You talked about Caden Salter, the quarterback. He's doing pretty well, 240 yards a game passing, and then Cooley at running back averaging 8 yards a carry. They've got talent everywhere. Their top receiver is averaging 113 yards receiving per game, which is just crazy to even say that out loud because that's really impressive. So they've got the talent offensively to get it done. Sibley is that receiver. And then defensively, they've gotten 7 sacks early in the season, 2 interceptions. So they're all over the field making plays. This is certainly a Liberty team that's going to challenge the Pirates. There's no doubt that the Pirates can win this game. That they can play with this team, but they'll be road underdogs, and it'll certainly be a test for them.
Kevin, we talked about 1999, and after that Southern Miss game, the Pirates played Tulane, and defeated the Green Wave 52-9. I know that probably you took out some frustration from the previous game, but what do you look for in terms of a mindset from East Carolina this week?
Certainly, this is a team that expects to win now. After you start the season off 2-0, and then you get up on an Appalachian State team in the first half, you're feeling like, this is what we're meant to do. We're meant to go out and win these games. And so to have it slip away, I know that was a hurtful feeling. And for all the guys that were on the team last year, they went through a lot of that last year, that let down. And so I expect them mentally to be prepared. I expect them physically to be prepared. And I think they're going to go out there and play harder. We're at you got to find a happy medium with Jake Garcia, because you want him to be that gunslinger that cuts it loose and makes plays and, fits the ball in the tight spaces. But also you don't want him to be that gunslinger that, throws interceptions and tries to fit balls in the tight spaces and throws interceptions. And so you got to get him going, keep him confident, but allow him not to take him and the offense out of the game. And then defensively, I know Blake Harrell probably hadn't slept a wink this week, just so frustrated with their performance and the fact that they weren't able to get off the field numerous times. And so they will be better. The good news is simply at receiver, he's averaging 113 yards a game, and the closest person to him is averaging like 30 yards a game. So they're literally getting the ball to him all the time. And then Cooley, they've got a couple other running backs that can run the football, but Cooley averaging 8 yards a carry, 88 yards a game. He's their main guy. That's the one bright spot that came out of that App State game defensively, was that Anderson Castle never really got going. Most of the game he was shut down. Late in the game, he picked up a couple first downs on some runs to kind of salt the game away. But for the most part, he was shut down. He didn't get his normal carry. So I still have a lot of faith in the run defense of the Pirates. And so I think Cooley will find it tough sledding, trying to run the football. So we'll see Salter and Sipley and those guys can get the passing game going as effectively as App State did against the Pirates. That's what they're going to need to do to win.
Kevin, we're seeing version 2.0 of Rajay Harris. He's back to the form that he ran with coming into East Carolina. He was American Athletic Conference Rookie of the Year. And I think he's using his vision and his explosion. He's got some speed and some power. And he had, I think, 88 yards rushing for East Carolina on Saturday.
He looked good. I mean, honestly, the last game against Old Dominion, when he had well over 100 yards of rushing, a couple touchdowns, hit the long 63-yarder, I think, for a touchdown. He showed his speed. We kind of saw what we could expect from Rajay. I mean, he's a dog. He runs hard. He's hard to get down, but he's also got speed and quickness. And of all the backs that ran on Saturday, he was getting the best momentum. He was getting the best yards. He was making the best moves, making the best reads in the holes. It just seemed like his vision and explosiveness was just better than everybody else's. And so he was averaging well over 4 yards a carry, while everybody else was well under 2 yards a carry. And so, as you said, he probably didn't get the ball enough because they were unable to stop him consistently. And it's just good to see him healthy. It's good to see him playing well. We knew what he could do going all the way back to his freshman year. And he's certainly, showing that this season, and he's going to be a big part of Pirates winning games throughout this season.
Testimonial, too, to the offensive line, which did a good job in giving him some running room. And this matchup this week, one thing that we talked about, if you do get a lead, if you're up 16-0 and you want to run some clock, the up tempo of the current scheme really doesn't give you that opportunity. I mean, you can go in there and throw a couple of passes. You stop the clock. If you can't convert on third down, you're giving the ball back. And that is to the favor of the team that's behind at that point.
Yeah, too many times this past week, the Pirates either went 3 and out or they ran, maybe 4 or 5 plays tops, excuse me, and the drive was over. And that's because of the incomplete passes. As you said, the clock stops. You don't run off a whole lot of time. It gives the opposing team plenty of time offensively to get their stuff going, and that's what happened. They got Aguilar got in a rhythm in the passing game because he had plenty of opportunities to do so. I think what you do in that situation is you use the short passing game as, in addition to your running game. So if they're clogging up the run, you throw those bubble screens, you hit the quick hitches, quick slants, and they're essentially just, long running plays. Those are easy plays to complete. And that keeps the chains moving. That's what the Pirates have to do more of. It's not just, hit the shots downfield or run the ball. You've got that in-between short passing game, and that's what this high up tempo John David Baker offense is all about, is to make the quick throws, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands in under 3 seconds and get first downs. And I don't know what the conversation was between the OC and the head coach and Garcia in terms of taking care of the football or not trying to do too much. Certainly that conversation needed to be had, but I think they were more conservative than they needed to be, and they allowed App State to come back because of it. They didn't get any other touchdowns on the board the rest of the game. And this type of offense should score, 3 and 4 touchdowns a game routinely.
Kevin, you add up the points from a missed conversion kick and a missed 36-yard field goal attempt, and, you're looking at a different outcome. And it seems like missed conversion kicks have just been a burden, for the Pirates. It puts more pressure on the offense at times, more pressure on the defense, certainly in a close game. And Coach Houston said after the game Saturday that Andrew Conrad, he got his rhythm messed up on the conversion. I think he took a step forward before he actually needed to in his kicking sequence. And I'm not sure what happened on the relatively short field goal, but it was certainly within his range, and hit a longer field goal later in the game. And he's hit some big field goals for the Pirates. So it's just kind of a mystery as to why, conversion kicks are such a problem and have been for this is into the second season now.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Kickers are their own deal, and the thing about kickers that separates them from the rest of the team, they don't really practice with the team. They're kind of off to the side making their kicks. They don't generally do conditioning with the team, and so they are kind of an outsider, and they feel kind of like an outsider because they're not with you doing all the things that you do. And so when they're making kicks, they're doing their job. When they're missing kicks, they're hurting you in the ball game. And so there's always this kind of little bit of tension and frustration between players and kickers just because, they're just not the same as us. And Conrad strikes me as the kind of guy that everybody likes and gets along with. But yeah, it is frustrating. You make a 52-yarder, but you miss an extra point. And whether it's rhythm or whatever, it's 2 straight games. He's missing an extra point, and that hurts. It certainly is not his fault at all that they lost the game. But certainly the missed opportunities led to that. And so hopefully he gets it straightened out. As you said, he's made plenty of big kicks in his career. We know what he's capable of. But, just make the easy ones. If you're going to miss a 53-yarder, but you're making everything 30 and in, including extra points, I think people will be happy with that.
There's kind of a letdown when you score early and don't get that conversion to continue adding to the lead. And that momentum is so big in football, but I know nobody feels worse about it than Andrew Conrad, and he's probably trying to figure it out. So we've got a special teams coordinator that Coach Houston has a lot of confidence in now, and so it's early in the season, and hopefully that problem can be fixed. But, Liberty, we talked a little bit about Cooley and Salter in the offense, and they're been very productive against 3 opponents that, are not really tough opponents. I think Campbell is decent as an FCS team, but they beat number 17 Western Carolina on the road and have not played a home game yet. But they hung with Liberty for a while and missed 2 scoring opportunities in the red zone at Rhode Island last week. So maybe better than their 1-2 record indicates. But that's not, an SEC or a Big Ten opponent, what I'm saying. So but their defense is averaging, limiting opponents to less than 20 points per game. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. You take the up-tempo explosiveness potentially of East Carolina against what looks like a very solid defense there at Liberty.
Yeah. You ready for the keys of the game? Is that where we are?
Let me bring you in then on the keys to the game. It's time for that Bonesville tradition, and that, of course, is Kevin's keys to the game.
Yeah, so I think it's going to start with doing what the Pirates do best, which is stopping the run. Cooley, we talked about him, 8 yards a carry, 88 yards a game. If you can slow him down and stop him and put them in a situation where they have to pass the football, I think they're in a much better situation, really because they throw the ball a lot to one receiver. And so that's you can defend against that. You can roll a safety over top. You can put a linebacker in front of him. You can do some different things to slow him down. And so getting them into a passing situation, I think, is the best way to go. But also in that running game, Salter can run the ball as well. He's about the third leading carrier. So just stopping the run game, being tough up front, it's going to start there. Defensively or offensively for the Pirates, it's the turnovers. We limited them this week as opposed to the 2 prior weeks. He didn't have as many interceptions, but it was a big one when it was the absolute wrong time. And so Jay Garcia, the running backs, the receivers, Chase Sowell, put one on the ground. You just cannot turn the football over in crucial situations. You got to hold on to the fumbles and can't throw interceptions. So find a way to be better at that. And then we just finished talking about special teams, missed opportunities in the kicking game, missed extra points, missed field goals. We're going to need every point that we can get down at Liberty in Lynchburg, Virginia, because they are a very good team right now with a lot of confidence and momentum. And so making those special teams plays, making those kicks will be all the difference in the world. So stopping the run game, limiting the turnovers, and doing well in special teams should be the way to win this game on Saturday.
Well, Kevin's keys to the game always get the attention of little Pirate Man. And so he's hoping to see a bounce back this weekend at Liberty, Kevin. And great talking with you. Look forward to talking with you next week on the Bonesville Pregame Podcast. And we'll be talking about that 1999 team as they will be recognized in Greenville September 28th.
Appreciate it, Al.